Good evening all. Welcome to the Thursday, October 10th, 2019 meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Police Commissioners. Typically, we start off with public comment. Because we were having a presentation by the Country Club of Woodbridge, and I understand that some members of the public wanted it to be heard, I thought it made sense for them to make the presentation first and have the public comment second. So I presume the two of you are here for the presentation?
Yes.
If you could come up to the seat, this seat right here, and state your name for the record. Who you represent?
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian St. Pierre. I'm the owner of Insite Development, and this is Max Werner, one of the partners at Werner Construction, who we've partnered up with on this deal. And like we said, we're here to make the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Okay. So I know it's a little unusual that we're here in front of the police board with a presentation like this, but we felt it's important to get this project out in front of as many people as we possibly can in the town of Woodbridge. We've been mainly dealing with the Board of Selectmen, and not everybody gets to see those meetings, and we'd like the rest of the public to see it too. So if you're unaware with the project, we are attempting to purchase roughly 60 acres from the 160-acre parcel from the town of Woodbridge, who currently owns the property now, and we're looking to do a 55 and older adult community, roughly about 120 houses plus or minus. I'm sorry, maximum of 120 houses, up to. And part of the presentation, which we'll get into it in the slideshow here, but there's additional items besides the homes that we're going to be providing for the town and so on and so forth. So let me get into it here. So again, Brian St. Pierre, I'm the owner of Insite Development, based here out of Woodbridge, Connecticut, and I live here with my family and 3 kids. 2 of them are in Beecher, and one of them's not there yet, still a little young. But we've been in business since 2001, and we specialize in design builds and develop, design build developments. And as I mentioned, with me here today is Max Werner. His father is the owner, founder of Werner Construction.
Also a member.
And they're based out of Cos Cob, and they're here as our partner and going to be working with us on this project. So if you're unaware, this is the existing site of the property as it is now. Basically, this is the whole 160 parcel that we have now, 160 acres.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That's your job.
And no, it's good. And we're gonna, our proposal is to purchase the 60 acres that are on the eastern half of the property here, which includes, if you're familiar with the property, the existing golf course, clubhouse and pool, and the tennis courts that kind of go along Woodfield Road here.
Hi.
Slide it through. There it is. Okay. So in terms of the proposal, as I started to mention, we're proposing to purchase roughly 60 acres from the town of Woodbridge with 120 homes priced beginning in the high 400s for the homes. As I mentioned, they will be 100% 55 and older age restricted, which is restricted to anybody under the age of 18 to live permanently in the house for basically more than 2 or 3 months. Our offer is $5.4 million for the property, which is cash at the closing. Part of the proposal is to have a new clubhouse for the residents of Wood Valley Estates, which will include tennis courts, a pool for them, fitness centers, with age-appropriate equipment, and meeting rooms, card rooms, that kind of thing for the weekly gatherings. Also included in our proposal is the removal of the existing clubhouse, the existing 60,000 square foot plus or minus clubhouse that we have. We will be demolishing it on our dime, on the developer's dime. And in place, we'll be replacing it with a pool house, a new pool house with locker room, snack bar, so on and so forth, and we'll get into that. I have some slides on that coming up. And for the remaining of the property, roughly about 100 acres, will be reserved and held by the town of Woodbridge in conservation as a public park or open space, whatever the town of Woodbridge decides to do with that land. And obviously, you know, throughout the community, we'll have walking paths and landscape areas, so on and so forth. So this is a proposal. This is our outline of the proposal of where the homes would go. As I mentioned, it'll be on the eastern side of the property. As you see here, here's the existing clubhouse pool, where we're putting back a pool house for the town residents of Woodbridge. These are approximately the 120 homes, and with the clubhouse for the residents only. In this area with tennis courts and pool. This is just a blown up version of what you kind of just saw there, showing the layout a little bit better. Familiarity, it's kind of flipped on its axis here, but this is Ansonia Road along the side, right side over here, and Woodfield Road comes down and intersects with Ansonia on that side. So what we want to do is give you an idea, the town an idea of the quality of building that's going to be going there, and the sort of the amenities that are going to happen with this community. This is an example of what the clubhouse for the 55 and older community would look like. As I mentioned, in the clubhouse itself, there'll be meeting rooms, a fitness center with age-appropriate equipment up here. And as I said, you know, meeting rooms, so on and so forth, card rooms for that. Moving on to the homes themselves, these are some examples of the types of homes that we're looking to do. For the most part, they will be one-story buildings with first-floor masters, so on and so forth, to accommodate the 55 and older. What we'll end up doing is probably 5 model homes that we can modify and adjust to each particular homeowner. There'll be customizable features both inside and outside of the homes. All these homes will be energy efficient and maintenance free on the exterior. We plan to not only use natural materials, you know, in terms of stone and so on and so forth, but also, you know, hardy board cement siding so that they're maintenance free on the exterior. Again, just some examples of you know, finishes, types of finishes and quality of project that we're going to do. These are a couple examples of projects that we've done. Just showing obviously the hardwood floors throughout and granite countertops and marble stuff in the bathrooms. This is what we will be putting back in place of the existing golf course clubhouse. This will be for the residents of Woodbridge, for their use, open to the public. And again, just an example of what we'd be putting back, you know, something with locker rooms, a snack bar, changing rooms and showers, and then obviously refurbishing of the existing pool that's there now. I mean, it needs new equipment, new coping, that kind of stuff on the pool itself. So what I always get into it. What's in it for the town? What's in it, you know, for the Woodbridge residences also? Obviously, some of the obvious ones are, one, we're relieving the town of its approximately $4.2 million debt that it currently has on the property from when it purchased it in 2009. That's an ongoing debt that we pay for, and with the $5.4 million purchase, we'll be wiping out that debt. The $5.4 million also gives the town approximately $1.2 million in additional revenue, an immediate influx into the town. And then based off the current mill rate, this community would generate approximately 1.7 million in new taxes, helping to offset future expenditures or help pay down existing debt that the town has, as it currently has. Also, in addition to not only the 1.2 million in additional revenue and the taxes, this project would also generate approximately $500,000 in permits and fees for the construction of the roads and the homes, building permits fees and zoning fees and so on and so forth. As I mentioned, part of this, the developer, us, Insite, will be demolishing the existing clubhouse at our expense. We're estimating that at almost $500,000 itself, just because of the sheer mass of it and obviously the equipment that's in it, all the oil tanks and so on and so forth are all inside. And then also the town gets to retain at least 100 acres of town property. I mean, and I mentioned it's not really up to me what we do with that piece of property, but obviously as a resident of Woodbridge, we get to discuss that too. And it's our intention that depending on what the town decides to do, we are more than willing to help with our resources while we're there in terms of, maybe the cart paths if they need to be repaved. We're there doing the roads, we can send our guys over and help out the town, in any way that we can. It also satisfies the need for the alternative housing options here in Woodbridge. I don't have the slide in this one, but the newest census report that we have for the town, 56% of the residences are over the age of 50 in the town of Woodbridge. So more than half of our population is over the age of 50. And it's something that we, as we want to age in Woodbridge, it would be a good option to not take care of your acre of land and everything is taken care of for you. And obviously with the 55 and older community, there's no impact on the school system because there's no one under the age of 18 is allowed to live in those houses. And the private roads, it will be built with private roads and sidewalks which are going to be maintained by the HOA of the community, which has no impact on the town works. So again, what's in it for the Woodbridge residents themselves? The last slide was kind of for the town as a whole. This is for the residences. Obviously, we'll be giving back that pool, that public pool for the whole town to enjoy. We have the public park with walking trails for the town to enjoy. It eliminates the debt on the property, helps stabilize taxes, and increase our grand list, and provides funds for future projects or expenditures. We understand, it's probably not going to lower our taxes, but at least it can help stabilize and level some things out. And then obviously the improved property conditions, as it sits now, it's kind of in disarray, and this project would not only help with that 60 acres, but give the town the opportunity to handle the other 100 acres. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, and before I do, obviously we'll answer as many questions as we can. Pretty sure we have all the answers, but if we don't, that is the website for the property. Which any questions that we get from the public that need further answering, we have a frequently asked questions part of that page that we welcome you to come back onto and take a look at the answers.
So before we start the questions, which other boards have you presented to?
You're the first one besides the Board of Selectmen. We just started our tour, so we have another one tonight. And who else are you presenting to? I think everybody besides the Board of Ed is the only one that we're not, just because of conflict in dates.
Okay. Because it's sort of unclear. I mean, I'm sure there are other opportunities for the public to ask you questions. It was my understanding that this will be based upon the issues germane to the police department. That's what you were going to be questioned about tonight.
That, and yes, if there was any questions about the presentation that we can handle tonight, then obviously I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay. No.
Just a very quick question.
Sure.
For the ongoing maintenance and staffing of the town pool house and pool and snack bar,
That's run by us. We'll be handling that, and it'll be a membership, as it currently is now. So instead of the town owning it as it currently does and collecting membership, it'll be run by the development team.
So I have a question, not only as a police commissioner, but I was part of those town conversations. I was running some groups about 5 years ago, and as you know, there was incredible heat about this, and probably people here have some questions and concerns. So there was a lot of misunderstanding about the nature of the housing, how much land it would actually take, what traffic congestion it would cause, stuff like that, as well as losing, and I'm not sure where you stand with golf and where that is, but the golfers were very upset. So those two things, the nature of the housing and the golfing. The other thing that I think we all know, but always bears repetition, is there is a lot of baloney put forward about it was being rammed down citizens' throats. There's nothing that sounds like that going on now, but there was nothing like that going on then, despite the accusations. So as much as you can say that continues to reassure any audience will be important.
Sure.
Because as you know, were you living here when it all went down?
Yes, I was.
So you know what
I
I'm
just
talking
moved
about.
here when they started.
Yeah, so there's a
that
lot
one.
of nonsense. So specifically, the nature of the houses, I think you've explained pretty much. I guess traffic is one concern.
Sure.
And if you know anything about the golf situation.
Yeah, so I'll answer the golf situation.
Yeah.
One, it came down to a matter of demand. We have, I think it's 6 golf courses within a 4-mile radius of this piece of property. You know, including Oak Lane and, you know, Racebrook
Yale.
and so on and so forth, and Yale. So it was a business decision, I'll be completely honest with you. You know, we eliminated the golf course. It was in our first proposal 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But we, you know, as a business decision, you know, after talking it over with not only the town, but amongst ourselves, it was just, it was a better use of the space we believed as open space or town park, town-owned land. And it also gave the town the ability to hold it in conservation. You know, if we had owned the property, you know, obviously, you know, things could have happened, you know, maybe, again, I'm sure we would have had to have come in front of boards, but the point is the town owns that extra 100 acres, and they'll hold that in conservation. So we'll go through this whole process again if anybody wants to use that 100 acres.
Yeah.
And then in terms of traffic, we're not there yet. We will have a traffic study from the state, obviously, showing where it exits onto Ansonia Road and also Woodfield, and we'll go off based off of their report that they have. If we need a light there, I mean, it's something that the state will require, not so much what we want.
Yes, you don't know yet. And actually, one more thing, the price is kind of high fours for these houses, and you know that prices in town are kind of depressed.
Yes.
What happens if you can't sell them for that price?
Yeah,
What are you going to be doing?
Again, it's a matter of supply and demand,
Yeah.
as you said, and you know we've done our homework in terms of market prices,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we need to decrease the pricing, we need to decrease the pricing, but we feel very comfortable, you know, with the pricing that we have, and the reason being is it's a different market. You know, the 55 and older market is a lot different than homes that were built in the 80s that haven't been touched in the 80s. I
Yeah.
mean, these are brand new homes, you know, with all the bells and whistles, you know, in a 55 and older community. So, you know, we feel that the prices are pretty much on par. And those are comparable also with the ones that went up in Orange on 34 there. I mean, there were some of them that were going for 700,000, you know, over in that one. So, we believe it's fairly priced, and again, if we can't sell, then that's,
You'll
you
do
know,
what you need
we
to
have to
do.
do what we need to do as a business.
And there's no medical facility as part of it,
No,
nothing like that?
Not at all,
Right.
not at all. This is an they call it an active adult
Right.
community, so.
Okay, thank you.
Traffic in a 55-year-old community isn't as abundant at the rush hours. There's
Right.
more fluctuation with timing and things, so it's not as
Right,
high impact.
yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
I just have a couple things I wanted to say.
Sure.
Appreciate you coming in, and I know that it was kind of needed that you came to all these different commissions, but you still haven't said anything to me that really affects police business,
Correct.
all right? So I'm not sure exactly why we, and I appreciate you saying this, but I really don't understand why we had to sit here at a police commission meeting to hear this, and I'm sure there's other commissions that you might get the same reaction, at least from some of the commissioners. The other thing, some of the things that you spoke about, and the jury's out as far as I'm concerned on this. I mean, I'm all about not having debt, as most of my commissioner friends will probably agree to. I'm kind of I'm the first guy that asks a question about overtime. I'm the first guy that asks questions about a lot of the finances. So I find it very difficult, and and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've spoken to mayors and first selectmen of other towns our size that have these 55 and older communities. And it is virtually impossible to guarantee that there's not going to be an increase in the school system. Someone gets divorced, the kid comes back to live with the parents, you're not going to be able to do it. And I have I'm involved in other communities in the New Haven County, certainly not on the scale that you are,
Sure.
but I've heard this from most people, and most mayors and most selectmen say, what a mistake it was for us. And I'm not saying I'm not saying yes or no to the.
Absolutely.
Again, I mean, you're paying off our debt and whatever.
Sure.
And so I wonder if what we're going to be making per household from a tax standpoint, you say it's 1.7, but I wonder what it comes out to per house. I'm not sure what the square footages of the houses are that you spoke about.
They're
What
roughly,
the average, what the
yeah,
median.
they're anywhere between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet.
So it's going to be pretty tough if someone gets divorced or someone has a kid that, and has 2 grandchildren and they're 5 and 6 years old. I don't know how anybody's going to tell them to leave. How could you possibly do that? I mean, I don't think it's.
It's a very good question.
I mean, it's not morally right? I mean,
Correct. And,
Right,
and
so-
obviously,
So that's a problem. The other thing is, I don't know how we can't. Excuse me?
This is a legal designation.
But
There
I
are certain
haven't.
restrictions, legal restrictions placed on
I-
communities.
But I spoke in other communities. Wait a minute. Wait, public comment later. So what I've researched and found out about, because this is something that I'm very sympathetic to the golf course. I'm also sympathetic to our financial situation. So I think that what I've spoken to many mayors and first selectmen about is that it ends up, there's a certain percentage of that community that ends up having some sort of event in their family take place where they have children or grandchildren coming back to live with people.
Steve, about what percent? Like, how often does
One
this
said
happen?
almost up to 20% That's a big number.
Yeah,
That's a very.
I'm just telling you
Folks,
what
I'm sorry, but
So, right, this
we
is
should
it.
focus this
Right.
on police issues that
Well,
relate to.
but that's what it leads me to, we need more police to police the area, we need more services.
Well, that's the question I was gonna ask.
Right.
Chief. So, are there issues that you have with, this is a different type of community than we have already. Do you see any policing issues, either you or a deputy, on things that we should, that we should be aware of? How is it going to affect your department, having this type of
The increase in
environment?
population, we'd have to look at that, and staffing needs to accommodate that, and the medical services, if that might be impacted.
It would be interesting to have that traffic study.
And the traffic,
Absolutely.
we'd await the findings of, we'll work with the state for their traffic study.
Sure.
And we obviously all collaborate with them with how it impacts us.
So that all affects the amount of police vehicles we have on the road, the amount of fire trucks, what our needs are for all that. And again, I'm not saying this is a great idea or not such a great idea. The jury's out in my mind so far, but.
So the one thing that came to mind is just seeing, obviously the homes are close together. There have been a rash of car break-ins, where what we've been told through both of you is that people walk around and will flick the locks to see what's open. I mean, Woodbridge is a pretty spread out community, acre and a half minimum. Here you have cars that are right next to each other, so, it would be a choice place to just run around and have access to 100 cars.
yeah, definitely not something I had thought about, obviously.
I mean, we don't have it anywhere else in our town, so.
Sure, exactly,
There are
exactly.
no garages?
There were
But there are
garages in the
garages, yeah,
picture.
two-car garages for every home. So hopefully they would
So
park in there, but that would solve some of the problems.
Hopefully.
Well, certainly
Not
there's gonna be a need for a larger police force, whether it be 1 or 2 officers. Because you're gonna have, we're gonna generate a lot more calls associated with that close area with a lot of houses in it. there's potential for a lot of things to go on.
Sure.
And we're not gonna just police that area. We have another, say, 18 square miles of Woodbridge to worry about, other than that 1 square mile.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it will definitely affect how we come to you for asking for more police officers.
Right, and factoring in the cost of, what it costs to have an officer for the year. It's an additional expense that
Sure, absolutely.
we'd have to factor into this.
Maybe some thoughts on security, maybe there's cameras at the 2 entrances.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously can do some security on our end also. I mean, obviously, a call is a call. We understand that.
A lot of those issues came up when they put the proposal for the Woodbridge Village down in the Flats, where the consideration, well, how much more traffic was it gonna generate? And it was the same thing,
Same question.
55 and older. How much traffic would associate, how many men were medicals, because we're first responders? How much, what effect is it gonna have on the fire department?
Sure,
There's still a lot of questions that would have to be answered.
sure.
That would affect, whether they,
Is there,
Services wise, yes, absolutely.
is there currently a call log on the property that's noticeable, or is it pretty much, there's not much
There's
action?
nothing there, obviously. Right?
on the property itself?
Well, I mean, being barren the way it is there any calls that come in currently, or not of record?
Nah, pretty minimal because it's
Yeah,
a big property.
A vacant land.
So-
Yeah.
Relatively.
Is there a fire hydrant in there?
It's public water, so we'll obviously equip the.
I mean, that's not our issue, but it's
Sure.
just, that's all that.
Yeah, we're just curious about.
Yep.
Are there any police-related inquiries of any of the commissioners?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank
No
you.
problem. I hate to do it, but did the town, the residents have any questions that they would like regarding
I
the
would just ask people
question?
related to, you know,
Yeah.
police type of
Yes,
issues.
I have a request regarding, and it has to do with the police department.
sure,
I live on Woodfield Road,
okay,
and we had to call the police, and the 2 officers that responded saved my wife's life. And their response was incredibly fast, and they were fantastic. By putting this community in there, I'm a little concerned that response times are gonna be down. And you're in Woodbridge, you're not at 18 and over, you're older than 55, 60, 65. There's more medical needs in the town. And when our police department can't respond because of another community popping up, yeah, it's a little concerning.
Okay.
The other thing is, you said that there's a lot of you 55 and over. My son just got out of the service about 5 years ago, an Army, a military combat medic. And he came and lived with us. And he's not over 55.
sure.
If I was in that community, does that mean the town of Woodbridge would stop my son, who's a veteran, and did a tour and keep him from living with his father?
And to answer your question, and I didn't get the answer Stephen's question before, I do not believe the rules and regulations of the 55 and older community are regulated by the Woodbridge Police. I mean, there's an HOA for that specific reason. In other words, it would be the HOA's responsibility to call on, whatever, whether they need to go to a board meeting to
What's
discuss
HOA,
it.
please?
Homeowners.
Homeowners Association, yes.
Association.
So, and again, obviously if it's an adult that is, I'm not sure what your son's age is, but, over the age of 25, I'm sure there might be some regulations that he can stay in that home. I think it's mainly for the under 18 and the school system where it gets tricky, and it's a legal question. I don't want to answer it. I'll have my legal team, kind of respond to it, but.
Does anyone on the police department know what the percentage of force would have to be increased for this community to give us the same service as we have now? Because the service we have now is fantastic, and I'm just afraid of a decrease in it.
I don't have a specific number, but as the population goes up, that'll correlate with the calls for service, whether it be criminal, medical.
And that's,
So associated with that, you have to respond appropriately with staffing levels.
There's no difference than doing a traffic study, it would be like what the commissioner, you know, he went out and looked at other towns similar size who had things like this put into the town. How did it affect their caseload? How did it affect their emergency response or, you know, their medicals? And that would be rarely easy to get.
And that is included, I believe, in the actual traffic studies that you get from the state of Connecticut, in terms of response times and, you know, the amount of overflow that you would have.
and my last question, and I'm done, is the construction of this. All of us on Woodbridge have wells,
Correct.
and the water, you're gonna interrupt the water table, definitely, I know that for a fact. What's the process when you're blasting, and what type of assurity that we have that this is, because that's our water.
Sure.
And, you
I'm on well too.
when you guys are done developing, you move on to the next project, and we're there, we're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys move on, you've got your money, and you move on to your next project. But what assurity do we have regarding our wells and
Sure.
things like that?
So, well, I'll start off with saying that there will not be any blasting. We do not intend to do any blasting on the property. Any work that is gonna be done with rock will be broken up with machines. And we'll have reports, they call them test borings. We'll have test borings done to show us exactly where the rock is before we even get to the site, period. In terms of water flow, that's all designed by an engineer. So there's soil scientists and engineers that come in and they do calculations on how we're gonna be regrading the property, where the water runoff is, what kind of collection areas we need for water. Obviously, we don't wanna slope everything this way and the person at the bottom of the hill, you know, gets all the water. So that is a major engineering study that we do prior to construction, prior to even filling out any building applications here in Woodbridge.
Well, thank you very
No
much for
problem.
your answer.
Folks,
Thank
please
you.
limit your questions to lease-related inquiries.
When do you think you can get the traffic report?
We weren't planning to do the traffic report until after a referendum. I mean, it's something that, you know, it's a very expensive report, and, you know, until we know there's an actual project, we weren't prepared to do that.
So that, it's hard to make a decision if you don't have all the facts about this. So if you don't know if we're gonna have to hire, 6 policemen, 3 policemen, 1 policeman, you don't know. It's hard to say, yeah, go ahead with it, and it's 10 policemen, I don't know. I mean, I doubt it. I doubt
Fair
it.
point, absolutely, it's a fair point.
And there's time in the zoning process to review those steps later on.
Once it's approved, it's approved.
Yeah, once it's
Yeah.
approved.
I guess you
You
can-
can't go back.
Well, it still needs, that is the other thing, Stephen, it does need to go, obviously, the sale doesn't happen unless zoning is approved, so on and so forth. So there is that extra added layer of protection, after the referendum.
We can always look to other towns'
Correct.
projects and get a rough idea of
That's
what they
why
need.
that's why I went and asked some of those questions.
I'm trying to
Wasn't
think of
being
one that,
contentious, it
I
was
think
just
Beacon Falls had one that was about 100 or 110. They recently had one that they just put in. We're a close town from here that we can kind of see, get a phone call over to them and figure that out. But it's a very valid question. I agree with you.
And the other question I had, and this is unrelated to the police, sorry. 55 and over, do husband and wife have to be 55?
One of-
or just
one of
out
the two.
So
One
you
of-
could have someone that's 55 and
Correct.
someone that's considerably younger.
Correct. As long as she's still not in school.
As long as she's out of school. It's 21 and over. High school.
Yeah, it's one
Talk to Matt Long.
at least one.
I have a question. Woodfield Road is a very narrow road down at the end of the north end of where it meets Ansonia Road. I live right there at the junction. It's 11 feet from the center of the road to my wall that was built 200 years ago.
Sure.
roughly. And my wife and I have experienced 2 accidents on our property. That one came within 10 feet of entering our house. And the other one came the other way and came up close to the propane tank.
Okay.
But it's not a funny thing because it's not me. I am worried about the traffic and the police. I mean, even if you put a light there, there will be police needed because I think the deputy, you should, I mean, you would probably have the means of obtaining the accidents right at that corner.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I have seen, I don't know, maybe 10 accidents in the past 20 years, and I have gone out and your force has responded, properly, but some of those accidents have been relatively serious.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a state road, and I think that in spite of the speed limit being 25 miles an hour, the speed is not that. It's much more approaching 40 miles per hour and maybe 45 miles per hour getting down to the state road. And I don't think that you police it. I mean, maybe you police it well, but I see a police car going along Woodfield Road, but I don't rarely see a police car sitting on, Woodfield Road and to see what happened.
Yeah. So can I clarify one thing about that?
I'm speaking to the.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, really, then we probably don't enforce that as much as we probably should. But I think with this project going up, you're probably gonna see the state come in and they're gonna actually do an evaluation of both Woodfield Road, which more than likely would be either widened in some way and added lanes, as well as the state road, Johnson Road, or Fountain Street as it's called in that area. There's gonna be major changes. As what happened, I can only use Woodbridge Village as an example, where the state come in and they made all these requirements, and that was one of the reasons why it didn't go through, is that there was a lot of work that the state wanted them to do. Whether it be a turning lane, widening Bradley Road, lights on Bradley Road, lights at Bradley and Amity Road, for the anticipated increase in traffic. You're probably gonna, if this goes through, you probably see a lot of, or recommended changes for the project.
And the intersection that I'm referring to in the presentation is not actually the current intersection at the end of Woodfield Road. There is an entrance just for the community on Ansonia further up Ansonia Road, towards the golf course. That's the one that I would have the market study for, and they would obviously take into consideration Woodfield Road. So I know exactly the intersection you're talking about. Which, and to be honest with you, I think if there was a light put at the entrance to the community, it would only help that intersection at the end of Woodfield because people won't be going,
No, no,
you know,
but-
45, 50 miles an hour.
No, that's more concerning to me, because the option of, do we go in there or do we continue, it's worse. You know that the danger of driving is having choices.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that had a question? Yes.
Go ahead.
Mine's also related to the traffic. I think in some of the plans, there was, well, not your plans, but in the state requirements, that there may need to be a traffic circle down there. And I wondered how that would affect where you place your driveway.
Yes, I mean, I have not seen that, any studies that say, you know, there needs to be a circle there.
I think it was in the engineer, Mr. Criscola, that he had put that in there, that there was a possibility.
Possibility of one, yeah.
Yes, I mean, till the
And again,
study's
that was their presentation and their interpretation,
Yes.
but I'm sure that he did not go to the state of Connecticut for this study to figure out whether there's a circle or not.
Well,
But either way, you know,
it's yet to be decided, but I just wondered if
yeah,
you were
exactly,
taking that into
to be
effect.
decided, and I understand, you know, the driveway might not, you know, exit where I would like it to go. It might need to go 100 feet more the other way because of traffic and how the, you know, how the patterns go or where a light goes. I mean, the tricky part about that road is obviously that the road that comes in on the 45. You know, that's all going to be taken into consideration with this market study and how we exit and enter this community and not only figure out what we do with the existing, you know, roads that are there. But that will be part of the study.
The study, okay. And I'd like to thank the police department for the amount of time that you do spend sitting on Johnson Road, watching the intersection of Ansonia. Although there was an accident the other, about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, yes, on a Saturday night. I do have one comment that is perhaps not too tactful, but I called the police number, not 911, but the regular number. Nobody answered. I tried again, and I did get someone who answered who said, "I'm going to put you on hold," and I said, "There's an accident." I never had my phone call picked up on again, and I hung up when I saw that the firemen and were out there, and then the police came. So I don't know what would, perhaps other people were calling in about the same accident, but I did call pretty early because I live right on that corner.
I'll reach out to you and give the details and follow.
But there's something coming up later in your meeting that I wondered about. Is it possible for me to get a copy of if there is a report or an update on that sightline survey? Sightline, there was going to be some sort of a report on the sightline
Yeah, I've
work that was done
been
by
discussing that
your...
under when we get into the
But
traffic.
is that something that another day I could come and either read or receive a copy of?
Yeah, I
Just
can do
again,
that. But
because...
I'll reach out to you on the other
Yes.
topic
Okay.
and we can discuss that
All right.
tomorrow for you.
Thank you.
Sir, you had a question?
So there's police access from Ansonia Road and public access as well. I didn't see it on the map. Is it right by Park Lane?
Yeah, so let me try and get back. I'm not sure why it's.
Well,
So anyway,
is it just roughly where does?
Yeah, roughly where the 45 comes in, you know, if you're looking at my map, it'll be northwest side of the 45 road. I apologize, I'm not sure which road.
Could you
what road that
point
is.
it out on that map?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
By the 45, you're referring to Park Lane?
I'm assuming that's, I apologize, I don't know the name of that. But this is Ansonia Road, this is the 45, and obviously Woodfield comes down and exits onto Ansonia there. So again, we have it drawn proposed-wise.
The ribbon, yeah.
Yeah, we have, proposed wise, we have it here, again, once we get a traffic study, they'll tell us whether, you know, it might have to curve out this way, it might have to meet here with the actual intersection that's there now. That's all part of the study, but for proposal purposes.
But you don't own the property beyond the, in other words, just how far west do you own?
Basically, it's almost like a straight line from the top of this. And again, we don't own it yet. I mean, this all needs to be surveyed and done, but, you know, essentially a straight line
Thank you.
across.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, members of the community.
Thank you.
So now we'll open up the meeting to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard? Okay. Seeing no one, is there any correspondence we have to address from the public? Right along. Approval of the minutes, September 10th, 2019.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Review of the reports, financial report.
Financial report, we're currently right on track with our operating budget at 24% used in the first 3 months. Pretty much as I reported last month, many of our expenditures are contractual stipends and mandatory operational requirements.
We don't have financial.
It's buried. It's in there.
Somewhere.
What was it?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Steve, do you have any questions?
I actually looked at this the other day. Same stuff I always complain about. Good question.
You want to complain again?
It's just, you know, I mean, you're $45,000 on overtime, which is, you know, no explanation needed.
So the other thing that,
And the same thing with the dispatch, you know, I always go over this and the investigation unit, 217%, you know, of budget. When I understand that there's, you have that,
Last year's budget? or-
yeah, I'm talking about the fiscal year, this is what was here.
Last year's, there's one says
That's
current,
last
one
year.
is
Right.
previous.
Well, this, yeah, I'm not talking about this month, I'm talking about last year's. Which is, remember I asked about that?
Yeah.
And he sent it to me?
Uh,
So, I mean, we already debated it, we already spoke about it, so there's no explanation needed, I'm just bringing it up. Again,
venting,
I'm done. Yeah.
so some time ago, the representative from the Police Officers Union said that they were going to submit some ideas on how they could help reduce overtime. Has that ever materialized in any suggestions to you?
Informally, staffing, get us up to full staff, but
That's-
any documentation or anything else since our last.
Because I thought they had some, the impression that was given is that they had some creative ideas on how to help reduce overtime.
Yeah, they said they wanted to work with us, that's what they said.
I'm not sure what that meant, but they did say that. I was just curious if they ever shared that with you.
Not any further than what we discussed in staffing levels, but I'm sure I could invite them back to.
Would you consider doing that? 'Cause
Yes, I'll extend that.
that may come up when we have issues coming up with potentially having more officers with this new project. Any commissioners have any financial questions?
Where are we staff-wise? Do we have anybody out right now? Are there
We're down an officer.
Yeah.
one officer, right?
So we have 24 officers.
Allotted for 25, but we're down. to 24. That's all.
Any questions? Motion to approve her financial report?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Activity report, you gotta make up time to vote here. Activity report?
Activity. Real quick, activity. Sorry I wasn't here last month.
We missed you.
I hope that the chief watched up the date. August,
Good job.
comparing August to September, I looked at the overall activity of the officers and some of the differences, and it wasn't that much of a difference, but we do have a DWI patrol in August, we didn't have it in September, but the officers did stay pretty much active, and I think that had a lot to do with the request for added activity and assignments that the chief made because of last month's meeting and the complaints about speeders on Rimmon and Lyons, Beecher Road, Park Lane, and Baldwin. So that's what generated most of the activity. As far as ISU, they came up with 8 new cases. Some of those were, they had 2 stolen cars, which resulted in 1 juvenile arrest, was recovered in Marion. The investigative services has been working on our dispatch interviews. We accepted 43 applicants. 16 of them had some type of experience, and the detectives and the group that we tasked to interview them came up with 5 fully trained applicants that they interviewed, and I think the chief will probably give you a little bit more information on that. They're down to 2. Old cases, we had 2 sexual assaults that they're making arrest warrants are pending. They had 3 guilty convictions last month for the kidnapping on Rimmon Road. They're presently working on 2 arrest warrants for 360 Rimmon Road. It was a burglary back in July. And that's about it, other than activities continuing over on those locations that I said associated with the complaints that we got, as well as the associated with the traffic study that's being conducted on Baldwin Road.
What is unknown?
I'm sorry?
What is unknown?
Unknown? As far as the activity goes?
No,
It's a category as a call
that's very
description.
against us. Those are miscellaneous and things that'll fall under it.
So something unknown is something else.
No answer.
So,
Because I feel like I knew this and forgot. What was the kidnapping matter?
It was associated to an ongoing investigation. It's sensitive, we'd rather not talk about
Okay,
it right now.
all right.
It's still ongoing.
Was it
Let's see.
family divorce or something like that?
I just can't talk about it
Okay.
right now.
And the other thing is, I don't want details, but were the assailants caught quickly for the sexual assault situations, and where did they take place?
A lot of that I can't release any of that information.
Right.
But it was over a course of interviews that were conducted with the rape crisis, as well as our detectives that have to meet together, and they set up interviews, and it was complaints that were brought to us associated with parties throughout town. It's specific, but like I said.
And the people who were assaulted were treated by the rape crisis?
Correct.
Representatives, yeah. So the police were.
The gist of it, the complainant come in, indicated a situation that had occurred, which was the rape. Like you said, we got Milford Rape Crisis involved in it. They worked together with our detectives to do forensic interviews, and based on those interviews and the information that they got, they were able to make 2 arrests.
Great.
But like you know, a lot of that's all confidential.
Yes, yeah, no, that's fine.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion to approve?
Move to approve the activity report.
Or second? All those in favor? Aye. Frank, your report?
Let's see what we have here. In the past few years, our officers and dispatchers have participated in the annual No Shave November fundraiser in support of cancer prevention. And because it's worked out well with the donations they're able to collect and for such a worthy cause, I'll be allowing them to participate again this year. We benefit cancer patients in Connecticut through the Connecticut Cancer Foundation. And I wish them all the best of success in that again this year, and want to thank Officer Carl Rodriguez-Perez for coordinating it last year and stepping up and organizing it this year. So that'll start next month. And I just wanted to share with the board, just briefly, on September 11th, the gentleman came to the lobby and presented the police department with a large 3 by 5 foot commemorative flag of honor, of which the stripes are all made of the names of all the people that perished on 9/11 at the Trade Center, the Pentagon, and on the planes. And it was a fitting tribute. We were in a meeting, Janice went out and met with the gentleman, and he wanted to make sure we received his donation, but he refused to give his name or to identify himself. He wanted to remain anonymous, but I just wanted to go on record and publicly acknowledge him for his thoughtfulness with that.
Where's the flag now?
It's in my office, but it's not displayed. We're trying to find the appropriate place, 3 by 5, so we could really display it nicely. We're thinking of maybe working with the high school, one of the shops there to make a display.
Nice.
That's something on that. And an update on contract negotiations. As reported last month, on August 20th, tentative agreements were reached between the two collective bargaining units, the dispatchers and the police officer unions. And then more recently, the unions voted in acceptance of the tentative agreements, and they were pending before the Board of Selectmen's approval. And I was notified that the Board of Selectmen voted on that this evening on both of those, and unions passed those. So that's been, those contracts have been settled. Some of the significant changes in that included wages, a little change in longevity, change in the vacation carryover procedure, some changes in health care and life insurance, and sick time accumulation. And that's all under the chief's report.
I'm drawing a blank on whether we approved, accepted it, and voted on it. We didn't, okay.
You have to accept it, you have to vote.
I just didn't remember that.
That's okay.
It's a motion to approve chief's report. Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Under personnel, as the deputy chief mentioned before, we've been advertising for the past several weeks for the position of dispatcher due to a vacancy that we had since July. The closing date was September 6th on that. We had a number of applicants, and we reviewed the applications and secured the names of several potential candidates that we wanted to bring in, at least to narrow it down before we brought it to the subcommittee. And we were looking for candidates that, we have a preference for candidates that have experience and have already exhibited a proficiency in their dispatching skills and multitasking, and those that are experienced. We've got it down to 2 out of those, and who are both pretty much fully certified and vetted, and seem to have a proven track record. The ISU is finish up their background checks on those, and we anticipate that they'll be done this week or early next week. And after that happens, I'll reach out to the subcommittee and see if we can set up an appointment and a meeting for you to interview them, and the goal, if you get them, or the next step after that would be to bring one or both of them to the board next month for your consideration, and try to get that position filled. Just back up to staff on that.
Actually, if you've now down to 2, I'd certainly prefer to interview both of them as a board.
Okay. I want to present them both to the subcommittee first, if that's good, and then we'll bring both to the board. That's fine. We have a supervisor that's been out on family medical leave for a good portion of the past few weeks here for a parent who had a major medical procedure, but that seems like it's starting to wind down, but that was a little bit of a shortage. And additionally, regarding staffing, we've had another officer who's using accrued medical time, sick time for a medical procedure, so he'll be out a couple of weeks. So there's a couple of staffing shortages that we have to deal with the last few weeks. And in addition to that, on the administrative side, I have an officer that's currently out of work on September 21st. I placed on suspension until further notice pending the outcome of an internal investigation that's ongoing now. It's anticipated he'll be out for a bit of time here as we work through the details of that. And just to update you on, we also have a second officer who's the subject of internal investigation and findings, and that's coming to conclusion, and you'll be afforded more information on that in the near future on the outcome of that, and an update on the other one as well.
Could you put those matters in executive session for the next meeting? I'm pretty confident that if they're brought up in executive session, they're invited to come.
Yes, we'll make sure we notify them. And that would be the more appropriate at the next meeting than the point we're at now with all this.
Okay.
So if they're present in executive session, you can discuss
They
it.
have to be, if you're talking about them in executive session,
You have to
you have to
invite
invite them.
But they can afford they can go into public if they wish.
Sure, they can choose to
They
be
can
heard in
choose.
public. Most people don't because of the nature of it.
Or they could decline to come. We'll make the offer.
So is there a motion to adjourn the police commission meeting?
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, unanimous. Good evening, welcome to the Woodbridge Traffic Authority. It is 7:18. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard?
There's not.
Is there any correspondence for traffic that we need to address? 3 traffic matters.
First one is an update on the extension letter. On September 19th, we received notification from the Office of the State Traffic Administration that they granted a 2-year extension of their traffic investigative report, which pertains to the Litchfield Bradley Road area and that intersection that was due to expire. It's actually a topic that came up before when the deputy was referring and talking about the Woodbridge Village property down there that's owned by Woodbridge Village Associates. This is just a standard routine practice when a development project like that is on hold and it's not going forward. The state sees that there's no other development going on, so they just leave their findings report in place. So the state has extended that, and the expiration on that is March 21st, 2021. And since our last meeting, an update on the Baldwin Road traffic study. We had assigned a sergeant to begin a traffic study of Baldwin Road as requested. He reached out to the Yukon Technology Transfer Center, and they promptly came down and installed equipment on Baldwin Road to collect the traffic volume and speed data and so forth. And once that related data and data is analyzed and traffic study is complete, I'll reach back out to the board and see where we go with it from there. And I also get in touch with the resident. And on another note, she wasn't home when they installed the equipment, but she came home from work that afternoon and she noticed it in the area, and she called and reached out to me and asked to extend her thanks to the board and to us for acting promptly out. So it was fine. And just an update on the Johnson Road and Rimmon Road and 243 sight lines. Last month, the resident expressed their concerns about the sight line there and overgrown vegetation and mowing, and we reached out to the state DOT, and they came promptly and cut back the shrubs and the brush from either direction, and then even a week later, our public works called and just updated me that the state was back out there again, even cutting it back a little bit further, so that's been taken care of. And that's it for traffic.
If someone would be kind enough to move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
voting, unanimous, thank you all.
Thank you.